Hey guys, this is Rick Galvez and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I want to talk about this iconic guitar solo from the song Crystal Mountain by Death, and why this guitar solo is actually more unusual than you may think. So the first thing that makes this guitar solo particularly unusual is the fact that the rhythm guitar, as well as the guitar solo itself, are using notes from two different scales. The F-sharp Phrygian scale for the rhythm guitar part, and then the F-sharp natural minor or Aeolian mode for the lead guitar solo. And also, just a disclaimer, so my guitar is tuned down a whole step to D standard because this song, as well as every single Def song in existence, is in D standard tuning. So I will be referring to the notes on the fretboard as it is in D standard tuning. So, the rhythm guitar part uses notes from the F-sharp Phrygian scale, which includes the notes F-sharp, G natural, A, B, C sharp, D, E, back to F sharp. F sharp Phrygian. Then the lead guitar solo, like I mentioned before, is using notes from the F sharp Aeolian mode or natural minor scale. So that's going to be the exact same notes as the F sharp Phrygian scale, except instead of a G natural, we actually have a G sharp. So this means that we have a major second as opposed to a minor second. So the major second appears in the natural minor scale. The minor second is in the Phrygian mode. Other than that is the exact same notes between the two scales. So the F sharp natural minor scale uses the notes F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, then D, then E, then F sharp. So together it looks like this. So the first bar of the guitar solo goes like this. So that's going to be starting on the 11th fret of the 5th string. That's our F sharp note. Going to G sharp, then A, then B. So far all is well and good, because the rhythm guitar part is just playing an F sharp power chord. Then when we land on the note B, so right here, the 11th fret of the 4th string, the rhythm guitar is actually playing a C sharp power chord. So that B with the C sharp power chord in the rhythm guitar part, that creates an interval of a minor 7th. So we got this B here over a C sharp power chord, which is a bit of an unusual note to accent over a power chord. You don't really see minor 7ths lingering over power chords a whole lot. So in our third bar, that's where we start to really see an interplay between the two scales or the two keys. F sharp Phrygian, which can also be thought of as belonging to the C sharp minor key, as well as the F sharp minor scale. So here in bar 3, the rhythm guitar is landing on a G natural power chord. So here. While the rhythm guitar is ascending up in eighth notes from the second position of the scale, of the F sharp natural minor scale, which essentially is like a G sharp Locrian shape, except we're actually omitting the sixth scale degree of the scale. So right here. So that is happening over a G power chord. So what's happening here is the first two notes are essentially two different second intervals over this G power chord. So G here. Then we're actually starting off with a G sharp going to an A. However, since we are not lingering on these notes, the G sharp and A, just quickly ascending up the G sharp Locrian shape, it's almost like now you're briefly in the F sharp Phrygian scale, except we're adding in an accidental, which would be, in this case, a major second. Essentially what an accidental is just a note that does not belong in the key. So in this case, if we're temporarily in the F sharp Phrygian scale, then that accidental would be the note G sharp, borrowing from the F sharp minor scale. This all works very well because we only have one note that's different between both of these scales. And also another thing that's really cool is that both keys, so the F sharp Phrygian, which is from the C sharp minor scale, as well as the F sharp minor scale, they're actually right next to each other on the circle of fifths. So there's actually a lot of common ground here, which is why I think this particular solo, even though the rhythm guitar is using F sharp Phrygian, and then the lead guitar is using F sharp natural minor, it works because both of these keys are very similar in a lot of ways. So this is how I like to play this section at bar 3, just like this. So we're starting off with alternate picking on the notes on the 5th string. So that's going to be the frets 13, 14, and 16. And then, to get to the next string, I'd like to use economy picking. And the reason for this is because we're starting off with an uneven grouping of notes on the 5th string. So we got 3 notes per string here. And by using downward pick slanting, after I've played the 16th fret, my pick is already caught between the 5th and 4th strings if I'm using downward pick slanting. So an easy way to get to the next string, and the most efficient way, is just to go right through the string, like this. And then when I'm on the 4th fret, I just continue with just straight alternate picking because now we have an even grouping of notes. We got 2 notes because we're omitting the 6th scale degree of our G sharp Locrian shape. So like this. And then we end up on the 3rd string with frets 13, 15, 16. Here, I like to switch actually to upper pick slanting. So like this. So for the next bar, we got, that would be bar 4. So that's going to be over a D power chord, right here. So that's going to be over a D power chord. So right here, and then we got this quick little hammer on and pull off. So the hammer on and pull off between the frets 14 and 16 on the 2nd string. Then quickly back to the 16th fret on the 3rd string. So here I like to use upward pick slanting because we're going back to this just one note on the third string. So if you want to stick to straight alternate picking, whenever you counter notes that have an uneven grouping of notes per string, for example, like 1, 3, 5, etc., you can continue straight alternate picking by switching to upward pick slanting, or you can even switch to incorporating some hammer-ons and pull-offs, particularly pull-offs. So here we are landing on the note G sharp, which ends up being a diminished fifth with our D power chord. So that's a fairly dissonant interval to have lingering over a power chord. So that's going to be like right here. A G sharp over a D power chord. So that kind of sound. So what's cool about this solo, and also fairly unusual, is the fact throughout this solo we're having a lot of notes that would normally be considered fairly dissonant or not the most harmonically pleasing being accented over the power chords in the rhythm guitar part. However, we are still getting plenty of resolution to more constant intervals, such as a perfect fifth, which we'll see later on. Next, we're moving into this section over an A power chord. And starting here at the 15th frets of the third string. So essentially starting again from the second position of an F sharp minor scale, which is essentially just a G sharp Locrian shape. Also, the rhythm here is based off of quarter note triplets. So it's not going to be, a lot of the notes are not going to be exactly on the beat. But since the tempo of the song, or at least this section of the song, is fairly fast, it will kind of feel like it's close to being on beat, but not quite there. So starting off with 3 notes on the G string. So that you can either use just downward pick slanting and then the economy picking to get to the next string, like this. Or you can switch to upward pick slanting. So you can get to the second string, which again is just 2 notes per string here. So that's the 16th and 17th frets of the second string. Then we're moving to this little arpeggio shape here at the 14th fret of the first string, 15th fret of the second string, then the 16th fret of the third string. And then we're going to this part here. So that's the 18th, 19th, 18th, and 16th frets of the first string. Yeah. So essentially we're ending with the second, first, second, and first scale degrees of the F sharp natural minor scale. Also, that little arpeggio shape that we have here, starting at the 14th fret of the first string. So 14th fret, 15th fret, 16th fret. That is quickly outlining a B minor arpeggio. And you don't have to worry about this section of the solo being particularly smooth, because the way Chuck plays it sounds like he's actually using staccato. And so that means you don't even have to play this arpeggio like you would like in a normal sweep picking pattern either. So I'm actually using a downward pick, then an upward pick for the note on the second string, and then downwards again for the notes on the third string, like this. And then to get from this here, the 18th fret of the G string, to the 18th fret of the high E string, you can actually bar with your ring finger like this. I find that to be a very efficient way to get to the next string in the scale. So that's a little bit of string skipping going on there. Alright, so the next portion of the scale is this quick triplet bass shred run over a C sharp power chord. So right here, at the 6th fret of the 5th string in D standard tuning. And for this run, we're starting at the first position of the F sharp natural minor scale, up here at the 16th fret of the 1st string. So like this. So this part here, even though it's based off of 8th note triplets, what we have going on here is we actually have 5 notes per string, which again is going to be an uneven grouping of notes. An efficient way to go about it is to use either economy picking or to incorporate hammer-ons and pull-offs. So what I like to do here is, for the last note, to get to the last note of each string for this section, I actually like to get there with a pull-off. So like this. Then that way I have time to get to the next string without having to worry about changing my picking orientation. I'm just going to keep it as just downward pick slanting the whole way through. So like this. Also, one thing that's going to make this particular section easier is with each shape that you have here, you want to change all fingers at once. So like this. I'm using my index, ring, and pinky here because on the first string here, we got the first 3 notes of the F sharp natural minor scale. Then on the second string, then we got the 4th, 5th, and 6th scale degrees of the F sharp natural minor scale. And then back to the first 3 scale degrees here on the 3rd string. So just an octave lower. So essentially it's going to be the same fingering shape on your left hand. So that's going to be index, ring, and pinky. Now, when the chord progression starts again, so back to the F sharp power chord, we're going into this section of Unison Bends. So we got 3 unison bends that last a whole bar each, going over the first 3 chords of the rhythm guitar part. So that's going to be over an F sharp power chord, the C sharp power chord, to the G natural power chord, so what we got here is we got our index finger moving up the scale from the first scale degree to the second to the third, while we have our ring finger on the second string a full step lower, bending up a full step to reach the same note that we're playing with our index finger. So here we're starting off with an E, this E here, and an F sharp here. So this E on the second string is bending up to reach an F sharp as well. So that's why it's called a unison bend, because we got both notes playing the same note. It's just that one of these notes is bending up to reach the other. So while the index finger is playing the first 3 scale degrees of F sharp natural minor, we got our ring finger 1 interval below the index finger, bending up to reach it. So like this. Also, if you listen closely to the guitar solo in the original recording, it sounds like there's a little bit of a gap between each unison bend, which I think actually makes this part easier to play. Also, during this unison bend section, we have some pretty interesting harmony going on. So, the first unison bend is just going out to an F sharp, which is pretty cool because we're starting off with an F sharp in the rhythm guitar anyways. Next chord is where it gets a little bit more interesting. So now the rhythm guitar is playing a C sharp power chord, while the lead guitar is going up to a G sharp, which is a perfect fifth. So we got unison, then from a C sharp power chord, then we got a perfect fifth. And then the third power chord is going to be a G natural, taken from the F sharp Phrygian scale. But the lead guitar part is bending up to an A, so that's going to be a major second. Which essentially is implying a sus2 type of sound. Then after this unison bend section, we're going quickly to this quick shred run here, starting at the 18th fret of the first string. Which goes into a grouping of 8 16th notes. Yes. So there's a couple of ways you can play this. So since we're starting off with one shorter note to lead into the shred part on the 18th fret, the first way you can try this out is by starting off the 16th notes with a downward pick, here. So that's on the first 16th note here at the 19th fret. So that's going to be just straight alternate picking, like this. So the second way you can try this is actually with an up pick stroke, assuming that you're starting off that first note before the flurry of 16th notes of a downward pick stroke. But if you do that, then you would have to do a pull off from the 18th fret to the 16th fret on the first string. So that way you can continue your alternate picking without having to change your pick slanting direction. So like this. You'll often see this part of the solo tab like this. So listening to the actual recording by Chuck for this solo, it does sound like he is ending with the 17th, 14th, and 16th frets of the second string, which is in this case be the A string because we're in D standard tuning. But personally for me, I prefer it this way, because then we're all staying in the same position on the fretboard. Having to quickly move back 2 frets in order to get to here, especially when you're playing so fast, personally I think that makes it a lot harder than it needs to be. And since this way we're still staying in the scale, We're still staying in the scale, and we're also still staying in the same position, which in my opinion makes this lick a lot easier to play. And then the scale run here is ending on a C sharp note. So now here we are in the final bars of the solo. So here we're going from the C sharp, sliding down to the B. So that's going to be the 14th fret of the A string. Sliding up to the 19th fret of the second string. So that's going to be the note E. You're going to want to add some vibrato to that too. Going into this final lick here, which is over a C sharp power chord. With the final note of a solo being here a G sharp, which is a fifth above C sharp. So, like this. So something that I find to be really cool about the solo is that we're starting off with a lot of notes being held out that are technically unusual notes to let ring over a power chord. You know, like we got minor seconds, we got diminished fifths, seconds, etc. However, during some key moments in the solo, we are ending on more consonant intervals. Like, for example, we got a lot of perfect fifths here. And perfect fifths is definitely a big component of the death sound. You know, whenever you hear a lot of guitar harmonies, the death is usually in perfect fifths, which ends up being a much more evil sound than, say, like, you know, your diatonic, you know, thirds that you hear commonly in bands like Iron Maiden. Alright guys, so that's it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this lesson on Def's Crystal Mountain guitar solo. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram and Facebook with the handle @RickGalvisGuitar. I'm also available for private one-on-one guitar lessons. So if you want to go really deep into music theory, technique, and how to tie it all together, how to apply it to your own guitar soloing and your own songwriting as a musician, then I'm here to help. So reach out to me at www.rickgalvis.com and I'll be able to help you out. Cheers guys, thanks once again for watching all the way through, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.